Now I want to turn to another part of O-scale. It's O-high rail. It's just as popular, if not more popular for some, than the O-scale market itself. Our sponsor for this is Millhouse River Studio.
Millhouse River Studio builds model train working accessories that are made to last generations. Millhouse River products are built out of aluminum and have scale brass details that even the most demanding scale modeler will appreciate. Since our industry entry in 2009 with the introduction of our flagship turntable, Millhouse River has continued to add new, innovative products, like our scale transfer table, rotary coal dumper, flood coaling tower and, most recently, a working conveyor that transports coal from the dumper to the loader. All of Millhouse River Studio's stunningly realistic products are currently available in O-scale. We are adding new scales on some products, including the upcoming release of an HO scale turntable featuring our aluminum construction and stunning brass details that is big enough to handle a big boy locomotive. When it comes to your layout, don't settle for less, get Millhouse River Studio.
And now to host this segment of our show, I'd like to meet Dennis Brennan. Dennis, welcome. Dennis, are you muted or
yes? I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim, and good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to talk about scenery, and what I found out is that it's all about blending. Now, how did I come about this? Working on a layout right now for a gentleman.
Excuse me just a second. Phil, could you put spotlight Dennis? Go ahead, Dennis. I'm sure he will in a minute.
Oh,
there you go.
Here we go.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm working on a layout right now. I've been working on it for the last few weeks. He's a high railer, but he's only been in a hobby for 5 years. He's an older gentleman, about my age. And he wasn't real happy with what he had. It was okay, but what he saw with what he did wasn't what he was imagining. And he just didn't really know what the issue was. So with that said, I'm going to point out something very simple that made a big difference. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And here we go. Nope, that's not it. Are you seeing this?
I'm seeing scenery.
Yes. Okay.
It's all about scenery.
Here we go. When I got there, this was an example of what he had between the tracks. Now, it's okay, but it's all the same. I mean, there's something not right about it. You don't see that between tracks, not in real life. So he didn't know what the problem was. So I came in and here's what I did. There's a big difference. You see the difference here? We've got a sharp line of ballast on each side, and we have solid green, and it's spiced up with a little bit of color here and there and whatever, but it doesn't look realistic. So what I did is I got rid of all of the green in between the tracks, and I still see his ballast, but you don't see a sharp line with the ballast. What you see is a blend. What I did is he's using sort of a brown mix of ballast, and I had some of my Rock Creek sand, which I thought might work just fine to blend in and make a transition between the ballast and whatever else is going to be there. Now, because these tracks are fairly close together, you're not going to see a lot of greenery in there. So you see a few hints of green here and there. And I may go back in, I'm not completely done. I may go back in and add a few little bushes and weeds, but for the most part, this is finished. And why? It's blended. We don't have a hard line. There's not a straight edge. So that is something that is very simple to do, but people don't think about it. Now, how did I get this? Well, first I got rid of all of the greenery, and then I painted everything with a basic brown earth color. It's a brown latex paint, just an interior brown, medium brown color that I use all the time. And I just painted everything with that. And then I sprinkled on some of this sand, which you can see this lighter color stuff is the sand. And then I added a little bit of dirt. This is a mixture of things here. It's like some Woodland Scenics turf, some earth and earth blend. And I think there was something else that I had in my box. And I just kind of make it so that it's not the same all the way through. You can see how the colors vary. All right. So now we get to this. Here's another area. He didn't have any of this. There was no weeds. There was none of this dark here. It was all that brown kind of ballast. And what he had was, there was green in here, green here, and some just empty spaces. He didn't know what to do with it. He wasn't happy with it. He knew it didn't look like he wanted it to look. So I came in again, I got rid of the stuff that was there, and I covered over his ballast with my coarse superior and fine superior sand, which this stuff is here. And then I blended in from the sides. You can see I blended in scenery. And here, this is a coal elevator. And I sprinkled some of my real coal in here. Again, there's no hard lines. You see how everything just sort of, one thing blends into another. Very simple to do. And we'll talk more about this scenery here. This is very simple to do. It looks pretty cool, but there's nothing to it really. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Here is a scene that I created. This switch tower was here. This building was here, but none of this other stuff was here. Not this rock formation that I put in up here. I added a few trees. I'm still going to do some work back here. I created this concrete wall. He just had a kind of a stone looking thing that that just, it didn't work for me. So I put in this wall. It's made out of foam core, and then I just colored it. And then I added some, vines hanging out. Again, I took this is a little bit overhead lighting, so it doesn't look exactly like it should. It's a little over bright, but that's darker ballast like you saw. And that's, again, I blended in the scenery, sand, and over here, I did this whole little weed thing. This was all empty space. He didn't really have anything in here. So I blended in this scenery, and then I added this street. And the street made a big difference. I also did this machine shop. It's by Bar Mills, and we'll talk about that later too. But you can see now the street, when I talk about blending, you can see I started to do a little blending along here. But what I'm going to also do is I have a product called Street Schmutz. It's a very fine gray ash-like material. It's the kind of schmutz that you see in along gutters and around curves in the streets. It's kind of gray and dusty. I have that. And what I will do is I will put it all along here and just sort of blend this in. But again, there's no hard straight lines. Right here, I will blend it in so that the gravel, so it'll blend into the gravel, and probably the next time I'll show you how that works. Here is another shot. The street, this comes right to the edge of the layout. I put in these railroad crossings. These are just, I cut these. They're scale 8-foot pieces of wood. Ties are 8 feet long, and they're usually 3 and 2. 3, there's usually like, I think 6 or 8 between the rails, but because we have a middle rail, you can put 3 and 3. Now here I only have 2 because this is a tighter turn, and he's running these giant engines, as you can see. And so flanges are a problem, wheels are a problem. So I have to leave a bigger gap than I really would like. This one, not so much, but here I had to do that. And for the street, I just used foam core and put it between the rails and cut it. And then I painted it with a dark gray primer, and then I skim coated it with Durham's water putty. And I mixed in some of the, I had some custom dark gray primer paint made in a latex. I just took a sample of the color I wanted in spray paint, put it on a white card, and took it to them and said, hey, can you make some of this for me as a flat-based acrylic interior paint? So if you want a specific color of spray paint and you want it to be a brush paint, you can just go to Home Depot or Hobby Lobby and give them a color swatch, and they'll make it for you. Easy peasy. And so I don't worry about trying to get streets perfect. They're not perfect. In fact, nothing is perfect. So that's all I did with that. After it dried, I went back over it with a couple washes, and you'll notice the street is not black. Why? Because streets are not black, contrary to what a lot of people think. Go out and look at your street. The only time it's really black is when it's freshly paved. But when you go out and look at it after a few months, it's going to be much later. Okay, here's another shot of puffer welding. That's just a little wire there that's ready for a light that's going to be put in here. A little bit of interesting, again, blending. You see how the fence, I have carefully put some weeds and scenery along the edge of the fence line. Why? Because it just doesn't look right if you just have a solid, just a fence against the ground. This really anchors everything. It makes it, and you see this in real life. So here's the key, guys. Nobody is a born modeler. I'm not. I wasn't. But I am an artist. I have a degree in art, but one of our art instructors, in fact, my intro to art teacher in college, he said something very interesting. He said, you don't have to dream up drawings or paintings or whatever it is you're doing out of your head. You might have a vision, but go take a photograph. Go look at the real thing. and then work from that. That's what I do. Railroad crossings. How many times do you see railroad crossings done by modelers and they're not right? Why aren't they right? Because you think you know what it looks like, but do you really? No, you don't. Go out and find a wooden railroad crossing these days. Not easy to do, but I did that. So I was informed on what they look like. I didn't just know how to do this. And if you can't go find the real thing, look at real photographs in train magazines, not other modelers. I'm talking about prototype magazines. Now, it's not, you can look at what other modelers do, but get ideas from them, but don't try to copy exactly what they do, because you might be you may want to develop your own style. No two modelers are ever going to do something the same way, just like no two photographers are ever going to do something the same way. So use it as an inspiration, and see if you can do the same thing, and look at a photograph. Here's a closer shot of the building. You notice that I also anchored the building by putting some weeds around this. And there's a little junk here. I still have to flesh this out a little bit more. These are Woodland Scenics fences, very easy to use. I modified it. The gates don't really open. I cut them apart and I pushed them back and I re-glued it, and I made it so that they open up. And again, there's no solid areas really. And when I get done, there'll be a little bit more dirt coming out of here, maybe a little more greenery and stuff. And this building itself is pretty interesting. It's a new kit that Bar Mills came out with. I'm not a shill for them. I've got my own company, but I'm going to give credit where credit is due. It's a cute little building. And you know what's interesting about it is this is printed. This is a print that they put onto a piece of probably MDF maybe, or some sort of masonite. I'm not sure what the base is, but it's a print that they put on here. And the only thing you'd be aware of about that is you have to be careful with it, because you can scar it up, you can mar it up. But what I did is I weathered it. The streaks that you see here, it was kind of weathered on its own, but not like this. So I added a bunch of streaks, and these door pieces this is not printed. There is 3D, I should tell you. The flat surfaces are printed, puffer welding, and all of these signs, those are all flat. The window pieces are separate, and so are the door pieces. They're overlays on separate pieces, and you paint them. They're wood. You have to paint them and put them in. And the corner pieces and trim are overlays, wood overlays, and then they give you these paper shingles that you use. And I painted them black and used some chalks to streak the roof. Again, actually, I painted them dark gray and used chalks to streak the roof. You notice the roof is not black. Why? Because it's going to be weathered. So think about that when you're doing this kind of stuff. All right, so that's it. That's it for now. I will stop screen sharing. Well, I don't know how to get back.
Well, Dennis, I thank you so much for being here this evening and showing and sharing this with us. Are there any questions for Dennis?
Anybody have any questions?
Dennis, thank you so very much. We will see you next time.
All right. Thank you, and have a good evening, guys. Keep on modeling.
Go have some fun with your kids. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.